Good morning, gang. Happy Friday morning. Okay, I'd be a little remiss if I didn't talk about this, even though it's not really a prepping topic, but if you think past here, it might be. Okay? Yesterday afternoon, Letitia James got indicted for mortgage fraud. Okay? And that's pretty much the headline, and everybody's like, oh, because she bought a house in Virginia that she claimed as her primary residence. Well, she's the Attorney General for New York. Go figure that one out, okay? I don't know, that might have been a little red flag right off the get-go. That she signed a mortgage application listing her father as her husband. Sounds like an Ilhan Omar thing. And then that she's got some condo complex or something like this, or property, that she misrepresented to have 4 units when it actually has 5. Okay, so that's where the media is taking this. All right. And I want to look at it a little bit further. What I think is going to be the most interesting part of this case is discovery. Okay. Now remember, Tish James, a few years ago, campaigned on the promise of, I'm going to get Trump. That was it. Not prosecuting crime in New York or anything like that. No, her whole mission, excuse me, the whole reason she wanted to be Attorney General was so she could prosecute Trump. And then they came up with the bullshit, oh, gee, he overvalued his properties, yada, yada, yada. Hate to tell you this, dumbass, but I mean, even though for some goofy reason they found enough morons on the jury to find Trump guilty, which of course is all being overturned, the banks don't take your word for it on valuing property. Okay, that's what property assessors are for that work for banks. Okay, now let's take a look at some of the deeper facts on the Tish James case. And this is where everything could blow up to our benefit. How many of us have all called for investigations into Nancy Pelosi's stock trading, right? How many of us have questioned how it is that people go into Congress broke, remember AOC screaming she couldn't afford an apartment, and leave multimillionaires, right? We've all questioned this. So I'm going to give you a couple of facts on this. Letitia James' salary, you can look this up, is $219,000. Okay, it's good money. She makes more than people in Congress do. Okay, she's the Attorney General for New York. She makes $219,000. And she owns a house in New York, a house in Virginia, and a residential property in New York. Anybody starting to smell something fishy here? Okay. Currently, and we hear the public bitch about this all the time, it takes $116,800 in household income to buy a house on average in this country. It's what it's going to take for the mortgage company to approve you. Okay? It's 117. Let's round it off. So if it takes 117,000 to buy one house, and she makes 219, that leaves her 102 to qualify. How did she buy a second home? And how has she purchased commercial property to generate rental income? Either that's even more fraud, or maybe she's getting money from somewhere else. I don't know. Campaign contributions? Stock trades? What other activities she got? I mean, you have to remember this. That 116.8 figure is national. So that's averaging people in San Francisco and Dallas and Omaha, Nebraska. Okay. She owns a house in New York City and rental property in New York City. Some of the most expensive real estate in the country. It's probably going to take more than 116.8 to qualify for one. I highly doubt she's living in some rent-controlled apartment that the super's got to chase the cockroaches and the rats out of. This is the deal. The fraud is rampant. She listed on one of the applications that her father was her husband. Before somebody comes up and says, oh, well, maybe her husband has income and that's how they're qualifying. Tish James is not married. Tish James has never been married. So there is no second income for her. It's all her. This is why I say discovery is going to become interesting. Because when they start digging into her financials, digging into the bank records, digging into how did she get approved for this stuff? Numbers don't lie, okay? Actuarial tables don't lie. You look at it and go, you make this, you want this, you either qualify or you don't qualify. I'm not saying she doesn't have a good credit rating. That's neither here nor there. I'm saying she doesn't qualify. We've all had this happen in our lives. You applied for a credit card, a car loan, a mortgage, or whatever, and the bank said, sorry, you don't qualify. You don't make enough money, your credit score isn't high enough, whatever, you don't have a big enough down payment, whatever it's going to be. She doesn't have the freaking income to do this, but she can own 2 properties. Of course, she's going to consider them both primary. And a rental income property. You cannot use future income to qualify for commercial property. Okay? It doesn't work that way because the bank looks at you and says, we have no guarantee you're ever going to rent them out. So that doesn't work either. What's going to happen with discovery here is this is going to be the turning point, the tip of everything. Because they're going to start finding the fraud. They're going to start finding where the money's coming from. George Soros, Act Blue. And then they're going to have to dig into how that money came about. And that money came about. And they're going to wind up getting into this. Whether or not she has to pay the $1 million fine per violation, whether or not she gets up into 30 years in jail, which is the maximum penalty, I don't see either one of those happening. The bigger deal is this is going to start to weed out, find out the corruption that is in politics. Because she doesn't have the income to get a mortgage that she applied for. So either that tells you the banks are fraudulent and compliant with her fraud, or maybe it's just a loan officer. Maybe that tells you she's fraudulent. Maybe that tells you her campaign contributions are, the accounting is fraudulent. Yeah. This is going to be interesting. They're calling it that Trump is going on lawfare. He's using his Department of Justice to go after his political enemies. Nobody does that. It's funny how the tables turn because Letitia James campaigned on doing that. Joe Biden did that. How many court cases did Trump have to sit through for a couple of years before he ran for president again? How many millions of dollars did he have to pay defending himself for unbased charges, right? Trump had that money. It's going to be interesting to see what Letitia James does, because on $219,000 a year, unless she's got a whole lot of crooked money somewhere, she's going to defend herself. She's going to get a public defender, because God knows on what she earns, she's probably up to her eyeballs in debt just paying her mortgages, right? It's about time we see mortgage fraud. This is bigger than just Tish James. This is the whole mortgage industry in a nutshell that's on trial here. This is the whole political circle, the fundraising, the accounting, everything is going on trial here. This is a lot bigger than the media is making it out to be, and it's going to be fun to watch, because a lot of changes should and could come just from discovery in this trial. Pinball out.